Have you ever heard a story that just sticks with you? A whisper from the past that feels so strange, so unsettling that you can't shake it. Today, we're diving into one of those stories, a chilling fragment of history that has puzzled scholars for centuries. It's the legend of the Nun of the Split Light. Our story begins in the shadowed corridors of a remote 13th century convent, tucked away in the rugged hills of what is now northern Italy. This wasn't a place you'd stumble upon by accident. It was a cloister for women seeking a life of extreme piety, silence, and seclusion. Life here was harsh, dictated by prayer, fasting, and work. But within these austere walls, a figure emerged who was anything but ordinary. Her name, as it appears in a handful of surviving letters and manuscripts, was Sister Agnes. We don't know much about her early life. Records from this era, especially concerning women, are notoriously scarce. But the whispers about Agnes weren't about her family or her origins. They were about something far more peculiar. Travelers and local villagers who glimpsed her through the convent's grill spoke of an unsettling sight. They claimed that Sister Agnes cast two shadows. Imagine that for a moment. In the flickering torchlight of a medieval chapel or the low sun of a winter afternoon, one woman stood, but two distinct shadows stretched out behind her. One account, from a traveling merchant seeking shelter, describes it vividly. He wrote in a letter to his brother that he saw the nun through an archway, praying in the courtyard. He said one shadow was solid and dark, behaving as a shadow should. But the other was faint, ethereal, and seemed to move with a slight delay, like an echo made of darkness. He called it a stain upon the air. This wasn't a one-time sighting. Similar accounts pop up in different personal journals and local folklore. Some said the second shadow was twisted, a contorted version of her own silhouette. Others swore it would sometimes detach from her feet and drift along the stone walls before rejoining her. The villagers began to murmur. Was she blessed? Was she cursed? The phenomenon earned her the name she's best known by today, the Nun of the Split Light. Inside the convent, the reaction was likely one of fear and confusion. For the other nuns, living in such close quarters, this must have been a daily source of terror or awe. Did they see it too? Unfortunately, the internal records of the convent are where the story takes an even darker turn. The official chronicles, the day-to-day logs kept by the abbess, are almost entirely intact for that century, except for a specific period of about 5 years. Right where the entries about Sister Agnes should be, the pages have been violently torn out, not just one or two, but a whole section. All that remains are ragged edges and a few stray words clinging to the binding. Words like umbra duplex, which is Latin for double shadow, and affliction, this. Deliberate destruction of records is incredibly significant. In the medieval church, record-keeping was a sacred duty. To tear pages from a convent's chronicle was an act of profound desperation, a desperate attempt to erase something from history. What could have been so terrible that the only solution was to pretend it never happened? This is where historical fact ends and scholarly speculation begins. We have the witness accounts of the two shadows and the physical evidence of the torn-out pages. Everything else is a puzzle. One theory suggests that Agnes might have been suffering from a rare neurological or psychological condition that was interpreted through the lens of medieval superstition, perhaps a form of dissociative identity disorder, where her other self was projected as a physical shadow in the minds of those around her, a mass psychological event. It's a stretch, but in an age where science was indistinguishable from magic, it's a possibility. Another, more unsettling theory leans into the supernatural beliefs of the time. Some historians who've studied the case propose that the convent believed Agnes was possessed, but not by a typical demon. They point to obscure theological texts from the period that discuss shade spirits or echo souls, entities that could latch onto a person, creating a parasitic twin of light and darkness. According to this theory, the second shadow was a manifestation of this entity. The torn-out pages, then, wouldn't just be hiding a strange phenomenon. They'd be concealing the details of a horrifying and perhaps unsuccessful exorcism. What's most fascinating is how the story just ends. After that 5-year gap, Agnes is never mentioned again. There's no record of her death, no mention of her being transferred to another convent, nothing. She simply vanishes from history, leaving only her eerie nickname and a void in the archives. It's as if she and her second shadow walked out of the pages of the book and into pure mystery. One final piece of this puzzle comes from local folklore. For generations after, the villagers in the nearby towns told stories to scare their children. They spoke of a ghostly nun who wandered the hills on moonless nights, searching for something she had lost. They said if you saw her, you must never look at her feet, for you would see not one shadow, but two, trailing behind her like a tattered cloak. And they warned that if the second shadow touched yours, a piece of your own light would be stolen forever. So, who was the nun of the split light? A saint whose divine nature was too complex for our world. A woman afflicted with a strange medical condition misunderstood by her time? Or the victim of something much, much darker that had to be erased from memory? The truth was torn from the history books, leaving us with a story that is all the more powerful for its incompleteness. It's a chilling reminder that sometimes the most terrifying monsters are the ones that lurk not in the dark, but in the unsettling space between the light and the shadow. What do you think happened to Sister Agnes? Let me know your theories down in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into one of history's strangest mysteries. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our next exploration into the unknown. Until next time, stay curious.